2 nights ago, the Penguins had 2-0 and 3-1 leads over the Flames. They end up blowing both of those and lose in regulation. Then the next night they're in Edmonton, chance to quickly move on, bounce back. It's the highly publicized Crosby versus McDavid matchup, so there's a lot of juice in the building. What do? They get absolutely pumped, 6-1. And those two games are on the heels of them getting shut out by Seattle. That Western Canada road swing was not pretty for Crosby and the boys. They now sit 10 points back of the final wildcard spot and 9 points back of the final divisional spot. Sure, they've got games in hand on Tampa and Philly, but there's so many other teams to jump over here that it's just becoming less and less realistic by the day that this team's going to make the playoffs. Here's the thing though. Sidney Crosby's having an amazing season. We've been talking about it all year. He's playing great, and Pittsburgh is nowhere near the playoffs. So some people are saying that they're wasting a great Crosby season. Like Biz, who lit up a bit of a firecracker on Twitter last night with this. And I know when Biz talks, a lot of it is tongue-in-cheek. That's part of what makes him one of the most famous hockey personalities. But sometimes he goes on Twitter just to speak his mind, and obviously people are going to react. This part pretty much encapsulates what the trade Crosby crowd feels. Sid will miss the playoffs in back-to-back years for the first time in his career, having the best season a 36-year-old's ever had. I think you get 2 more seasons like that and you wasted one. How quick can it get rebuilt? And then in a follow-up tweet, even though he said he knows it won't happen, just by mentioning Crosby and Colorado in the same sentence, it started a firestorm in the replies. And he's right. In my eyes, this is not going to happen here. We can have a discussion of whether or not it should happen given where Pittsburgh is going here, but I don't think it's actually going to. I think he stays in Pittsburgh. Of course, the NHL gets wild sometimes. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we do end up seeing a Crosby-McKinnon team up, but everything I've seen and heard reported on this has said that Crosby's going to stay in Pittsburgh and he doesn't want to go anywhere. Can that change? Sure, but I think the only way Crosby leaves is if Pittsburgh goes full lottery rebuild mode, tear it down, which just seems super unlikely with some of the names they've got on the books. Priority number 1 for Dubas right now seems to be, okay, what can we get for Jake Gensel to kickstart a retool here? Calgary and Edmonton were the final nails in the coffin. It's time to punt on this season. I think Dubas knows that. Pierre LeBrun tweeted out this morning that the sense is that the Penguins, after that road trip, have a very clear sense of what needs to be done before Friday's deadline, exploring all options with view to bolster the club for the future, hearing there's 6+ legit suitors for Gensel, Vegas and Vancouver among them. That's what's probably actually going to happen here. But of course, the top comment is a Photoshop picture of Crosby in an Avs sweater. I love hockey fans, man. Man, unless Crosby signs an extension with Pittsburgh, this stuff is going to get loud here. Like louder than we've ever seen Crosby trade rumors or free agent rumors, especially since he only has 1 year left on his deal after this one. I'm not trying to spoil the fun. Like, of course, I think McKinnon and Crosby on the same team would be tons of fun. I just want to make sure I give you guys my honest opinion, which is that I don't think he's going to leave Pittsburgh. Dubas is definitely in a bind here, though, because Crosby certainly doesn't want to play on losing teams in his final few seasons in the NHL. But apart from trading Gensel and taking a look at your goaltending situation, what do you do here? I mean, obviously, people are going to bring up, oh, trade Malkin, trade Letang, trade Carlson. Like, I guess it's not impossible. That would be wild, though, because would you trade those guys for other guys who can help you now and keep Crosby, or would you just offload everyone, complete fire sale rebuild? If you ask me, I think they're going to do what Pittsburgh's done for years, which is keep the core of Crosby, Malkin, Letang, and now Carlson's part of that. They're going to move some pieces around that to try to build a better supporting cast for this core. They try to do that by bringing in a guy like Riley Smith. That hasn't worked. Ricard Raquel has been an enigma this year. I'm not saying they're necessarily going to go out and have the modern day equivalent of the Phil Kessel trade. They're probably going to want to bring in a guy who's younger than Kessel was when he was acquired by Pittsburgh, because that was like dab smack in their cup window. I think Dubas might try to go for a bit more of the Dallas model, where you had Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin, whose contracts were not going to be moved by that team, but you still were able to build around those guys with young players like Jason Robertson, Rupe Hintz, Wyatt Johnston, Thomas Harley. Obviously, Dallas has drafted super well and gotten pretty lucky with guys like Miro Heiskanen, Jake Ottinger, and they did it without ever going into like full rebuild, tear it down mode. Most of those guys I mentioned are either late first round picks or second round picks, so it's definitely doable for Dubas. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments. It's a super interesting one. What do you think is going to happen with Crosby? And if he were to get traded, where's your like dream spot for Sidney Crosby to go to? For me, I know it's super unrealistic, but he grew up cheering for the Montreal Canadiens. He had that great, leg kick, water bottle moment that basically kickstarted his NHL career. That city and fan base would be buzzing. They would worship him if he played there. I think it would be super cool. And also, what would you do right now if you were in Kyle Dubas' shoes to sort of fix the Penguins, keeping in mind that there is a life for the Penguins after Crosby, Malkin, Letang, and Carlson are gone? You've got to think about that too. Let me know in the comments down below. I'll see you in the next one. You're awesome.